conversations do not do the teachers justice in truly preparing for this. When you're asking about the training, you need to be asking about hands-on training provided by experts. And there is a difference, a distinct difference between hands-on, interactive training where they're actually doing and learning by doing and building those pathways in their brain and understanding the difference between reality and Hollywood. There's a big difference between that and just having a tabletop scenario. When we have tabletop scenarios about things that we've actually never had firsthand experience in, how are we truly able to say that what we're going to do will work? So a lot of times what it comes down to is schools don't have a lot of money. They utilize what they have. They stretch the dollar as much as they can, but something's got to give, and there's just not a lot of money left over for training in this area. So what they do is they lean on the either the sheriff's department or the police department and the school resource officer to help them provide their teachers with an idea of what is right and what is wrong, in a response type situation. Another thing that the schools are dealing with is time allocation. Teachers have a ton of in-service training that they're required to do, and so they just don't have a lot of time on their hands. And so those are two of the main objections that we get when it comes to formal training. And again, there's solutions to both of those. There's solutions to anything when it's important enough to find a solution to it. 9/11 happened one time. One time in our country's history did we have airplanes fly into buildings and cause all that mass murder and problems for us. And we haven't seen that type of circumstance happen since. Why? Because a substantial amount of stuff changed. And there was no excuses about getting it changed. It just changed. We reprioritized what we thought was important, and we got things done. And that's exactly what we need to be doing with these schools. If your principal tells you that the amount of training started and stopped, and the most that they've done is tabletop scenarios, online training, conversations, anything other than hands-on, formal, provided training from experts. Should be experts providing this training. If they're not getting that, then that's where we need to start demanding change. The school in Texas had recently received an award for their security. And so we can now have this hindsight 2020 perspective and say, obviously, there was more that can be done. There's always more that we can do. More details will be coming out about that Texas event as time goes on and interviews are completed and evidence is collected and dispersed. But hands-on training, constant training, these skills are perishable. Teachers are not in the job of fighting. They're oftentimes uncomfortable with that. And so the way we become comfortable with certain things that are uncomfortable for us is we build confidence. And it has to be done in a very systematic way. We always have to understand the why behind what we're doing and not shy away from it because we don't understand it or we don't like it, not with something that's this important. Number 5, we want to know about the school safety and security, the structure itself. So if you have a school, a child that goes to a school where you're able to just walk in and out, doors are unsecured, you can walk in through any door, it's unlimited access into the building, nobody is wearing credentials, you're not required to sign in, meaning that they tell you to sign in. There's a sign that says to sign in, but if you're actually able to walk into a school and walk right past that and not be challenged, there's problems there. You want to be talking to your principal, and if you have a school safety committee, with them as well, about what measures the school takes to harden the structure, to prevent access, to limit access, and what conversations that teachers are having with the kids to make sure that they're not leaving doors ajar for convenience, that if there's a knock on the door from the outside, that it's not being answered, and that the teacher is being contacted, and that everybody's doing their part to understand we have a limited access school. There's the front door that they come through and the front door that they leave, and everything else is secure. Do your teachers have credentials? In the middle of a chaotic event, when people are running around and things are crazy, are your teachers easily identifiable as staff? Will a student who's never met a teacher before understand that they're a teacher based on the credentials? Or do they look like everybody else? So we want to be evaluating the school structure itself. We want to, and you can do this yourself. You probably already know. You probably know if you can walk into a school, your child's school, and just find yourself walking around and milling around, or not. And if you can, do not blow that off by thinking to yourself, well, that's because they know me. It's because my child's been going to the school for a couple of years now, and they recognize me as a parent. Don't let that bring you comfort, because you know what? Husband and wives get divorced all the time. Relationships go south all the time. And some of the reasons that happens is due to abusive relationships. People become violent at times. And just because they're recognizable in the school does not mean that they should not be challenged. We have more kids abducted due to custodial issues from schools each year than any other kind of problem. So I would challenge you to see if you can make your way into a school and walk around and see how long it takes before you're challenged. If you're challenged right away and you are addressed right away, that is what you're looking for. But if you're able to walk in and just mill around and walk past classrooms and you're not challenged for a while or not at all, you need to be very concerned, because then you think about it through the mindset of a bad guy and say, what if I were a bad guy? The student that went and did the Texas event, he was wearing a trench coat in Texas in 90-degree weather. Nothing illegal about that, but certainly odd, right? And those abnormalities can sometimes be very, very telling about something that should be evaluated further for ill intent and evil intent. Number 6, this has to do with the parents. Parents, we need to parent. There's all kinds of information that is coming up about this Texas event, and is the way it usually goes, where the hindsight 2020 perspective is we start learning all of these pre-attack warning indicators that were there and present, but we're not finding out until after the fact. We need to parent our kids. I understand that kids, they want cell phones. As parents, we want our kids to have cell phones because we want them to be able to reach out and stay in touch with us. We want to be able to know where they're at and what they're doing, and if they need help. It brings us a certain level of comfort for kids to have access to us that way. But it is certainly a double-edged sword when your child has a phone or has access to computers in the home that have access to the internet and have access to social media accounts. And these kids are visiting websites and are liking social media pages and are taking pictures and are sharing information. And in the case in Texas, the perpetrator there made a homemade shirt that said "Born to Kill" on it. Not that that's social media related, but the shirt itself, with the exception of he took a picture of it and uploaded that shirt, and it was on his Facebook page. We need to parent our kids and be in their business. We know that adolescents don't have the ability to decipher a lot of what's happening in the world around them. And there's a lot of perpetrators that will seize the opportunity to um, deal with well, they prey on kids. They prey on these kids and their adolescents, and there's just a whole host of things that are problematic with kids having access to the internet and social media and it not being monitored. Cyberbullying is a big deal. But in the case of this Texas event, there was a journal, and there was online searches, and there was all kinds of things. There's pictures with him with guns, all kinds of things that we're learning that could have easily been seen and found had the parents really been probing and looking into what's going on and being in touch with these warning indicators. These juveniles are not smarter than parents. If you have a child that's smarter than you and has more life experience than you, then that's a very troubling thought. As parents, we know that we are smarter than our kids when it comes to life experience, and that our kids' brains are developing and they don't have the totality of understanding of the big picture game that we as parents do. And parents, our kids don't have a right to cell phones. They don't have a right to a bedroom. They don't have a right to the internet. They don't have a right to privacy. So be involved. Know what's on their phone. Know what social media accounts they have. There's all kinds of information out there for parents to be looking at that kids use to hide their online activity, their social media activity. There are all kinds of apps out there that kids will download and will give a false home screen on their phones and will hide all of their activity, but they open the app and they unlock the app, and then it actually brings out their real actions and activity. Same thing with social media pages. It is not uncommon at all for kids to be having a social media page that they tell their parents about, and they post on it regularly and pretend like it's their only page. But what they have is they have a secondary page and other pages. That's the one that they're doing all of the things that they know their parents wouldn't approve on or approve. And I get it. Those are going to be hard to find. The kids are purposefully being deceitful. But if you parent and you're in their business and you're asking questions and you have more life experience than they do, when they're lying, you're going to know they're lying. And you'll find it. And if you have access to their phone, if you have access to their computer, you'll find it. You just have to parent and be in their business. Number seven. Talk to your kids about defending themselves in these events. You hear run, hide, fight a lot. We actually prefer move, secure, defend from the standpoint of terminology. Words do matter. And when we're talking about adolescents, when we're talking about teachers that are not necessarily wanting to have to fight, they don't like the word fight. Fighting on school grounds is a bad thing. A lot of negative connotation to fighting. Running. Teachers are not going to run from their kids, and we've just found that words matter. We like move, secure, defend. But when it comes to the kids, we sometimes, as parents, we get resistant to talking to our kids about these events. Teachers and school staff members seem to be resistant to exposing the kids to the real in-depth conversation about dealing with these events. They're worried about upsetting them. But my challenge to you would be this. Have you ever talked to your kids about stranger danger? Have you ever talked to your kids about being abducted and what to do if a stranger ever walked up to them and asked them if they would help them find their puppy or wanted a piece of candy or get into the vehicle with them? Have you ever had a conversation with your kids that way? Have you ever talked to your child about what to do in the event that